So typically, copper iodide is always used for these ones. I don't recall seeing anything else, but copper iodide is one of the most common ones because it's very stable copper one metal, and then a mild base. So not necessarily, it's not necessarily going to be directly. It could be, I don't know, lots of bases like isopropyl sodium carbonate, potassium carbonate, sodium bicarbonate, and just basically typically a mild base. That's what that means. So that's the, and then solvent. Well, as you're going to see in a lot of reactions to papers that you see or exam or whatever, you're going to see, okay, THF. Of course, I'm making this up, right? But I don't know. This THF is a good solvent for this, but if you have other types of solubilities, other functional groups, THF may not work, right? That means may not work. And that's why you see all types of different additives that are put on each reaction to make a particular system work. Right? But you typically start with something that you know works, and then if it doesn't work, then you just add that maybe the base wasn't good enough, or solubility was a factor, so you have to change the solvent. Maybe your ligands are not as active, so then you have to change different. So just keep that in mind. But at least for some here, you have a palladium type, copper, mild base, some cyanide, whatever might be the case. So for the Heck, for the Suzuki, it's going to be the same. But you just have to be able to identify what's going on. And that's the extent that I'm going to cover in this class. Yeah,
Does the Sonogashira and the code chemistry, are they the only ones that deal with alkalines?
Yeah, although I wouldn't compare or I wouldn't clump together the Sonogashira and the click because they have completely different outcomes.
Okay.
But the Sonogashira is the only one, or the main one, that does an alkyne to do a carbon-carbon bond, right? And it could be a vinyl halide, vinyl with a good group, so for carbon-carbon, yeah.
Oh, what about the groups?
So the groups is the only one. The reclosing metathesis or alkene metathesis is the one that we are going to cover, or that one you can definitely take. That one I guarantee you I'm going to ask you for the mechanism, and so might not be on the. By the way, we will have a quiz next Tuesday, and the quiz is going to cover everything that we've seen up to today's material. So what's the format? Well, I'm not sure, I haven't done it, but most likely I'll give you maybe an excerpt of a paper and then give me a mechanism and then another portion where it's going to be filling the blanks, like what's the product, what are the reagents, something along those lines. And the mechanism is not going to be something out of this world or something definitely that we haven't covered. It's going to be something that we've covered, but of course the molecule may be more complex, right? So just keep that in mind. Any questions regarding the quiz? Ring closing metathesis. Ring closing metathesis makes sense? Yes? So we're gonna do so you guys should make sense. Alright, so then I'm gonna skip this. Alright, so let's do carbonyl chemistry. So I'm ready. We're going to talk about carbonyl chemistry. Something like this. What happens when you treat this with ethylene glycol and acid? You guys remember? You get your cyclic acid back. This is acetal chemistry. And these are commonly used as protecting groups, right? These acetals are often used as protecting groups. Does this ring a bell? Do you guys remember this? So of course, same type of chemistry. Look out for these mechanisms. You can also do the thiol. Oftentimes you do camphor sulfonic acid, so you'll see oftentimes CSA or paratoluene sulfonic acid. At the end of the day, this is your camphor, and basically in this case, if it's camphor sulfonic acid CSA, it's basically used sulfonic acid. So CSA, camphor sulfonic acid. Sometimes you commonly see PTSOH, which is paratoluene sulfonic acid. So of course R is going to be camphor. R is going to be the toluene group. So R, camphor, toluene. And the main thing is that it's a sulfonic acid. And these are organic acids. And that's why they're used commonly because they have good solubility in organic media. That's the advantage of using CSA, PTSOH, and that these are some of the common ones. Of course, there are other types of acids that are always used. You just have to, but the chemistry is going to be the same, right? So you just have to protonate it and then get your chemistry started. Of course, if you have a thiol, these are actually much more efficient. They're easier to put on, easier to take off, more resistant. They're a lot better protecting groups than thiolides. The problem, or not problem, but one of the things that people stay away from is because they smell crazy bad. So very strong smell. Well, they're synthetically, right? If you have this chemistry not working out for you, then you probably have to go to this or be that, right? So that's something that sometimes you don't see on textbooks. You might see, but that's one thing to consider. So remember, so any questions regarding making ketone chemistry? So cyclic acetates, acetates, hemiacetates. You guys remember that?
Not hemi. I don't remember hemiacetates.
Hemiacetates is basically the intermediate where you have like this, for instance. Acetate. So it goes through the same. So in order to put this one at some point, you have to go through the hemiacetates. They're very. This is very unstable. So it goes back immediately back to the carbonate.
So hemiacetate is the intermediate of both.
Yeah, it will be intermediate for both of these. Now, how do you take these groups off? Of course, these are called protecting groups. So you guys are all familiar with protecting groups. So what I mean by that, right? So protecting group, a strategy where you try in this particular case, if you wanted to do chemistry at on the ring, for instance, and the carbonyl is giving you a problem, it's going to complex or do something, then you want to protect it, right? And then, and that's the idea. So you protect it, and now you can do chemistry in the carbonyl. Whether it's a, I don't know, electrophilic aromatic substitution or whatever it might be.
And then you can take it off with an acid.
And then you take them off with an acid. So what types of acid? Typically, you have to use a stronger acid. TFA is a common one, so trifluoroacetic acid. It's a much more stronger acid than those sulfonic acids over there. So you just stir it in sulfonic acid, and then you go back to in this case, to acetophenone of your starting material. Right? So always things you have to consider. Oftentimes, I'm just going to refer. We are not going to have time to devote a lot of time to just protecting groups. I just want to cover. But as we go on, certainly we're going to see a lot of them. In this case, this is one of them. Today probably we'll see a couple more. So I'm just going to talk to say, okay, it's a protecting group, right? How do you take it off? You have to start looking at those or keep those alternatives or a methodology in mind. And certainly take notes as we go.
For like our knowledge, I guess, with quizzes and exams, do you want to know the mechanisms of how protective groups are taken off as well?
Yeah, well, yeah, sure. Well, at the end of the day, it's the same chemistry.
Yeah.
So if you can put it on,
You can take it off.
basically, in this particular case, but certainly, yes, practice. In this case, this particular mechanism, you can do one, maybe you can do one for practice, but yeah, you should know this mechanism. This in particular is a lot of steps. Remember, the proton transfers are not intramolecular, right? So your proton transfer in intermolecular molecules, right? So when you're doing a proton transfer, show all the protonation steps. Right? So once you are in a purely synthetic group or doing purely organic synthesis, you can just write PD for now, every step. Any questions to this chemistry? All right, make sure you review this type of these mechanisms. You might not be tested on, but it'll definitely be very useful when we start talking about carbocations and Lewis acids. Okay. So let's continue with phenol carbon chemistry. So what occurs if you treat these, for instance, with primary amine, sometimes with a little bit of acid. So what do you get?
And then add it.
Can be acid and imine.
Oh, we have to-
That's your imine reaction. They're going to be very useful. So in this particular case, if you have aldehyde, then just treat it with and oftentimes you can, it doesn't even have to be catalyzed. You can just do this in ethanol, and the reaction will go to the imine. In this particular case, what's the product? You get your imine, right? In both of these cases. So, how do you take off an imine? Not an imine, that this can get hydrolyzed. This is all acid-base chemistry. Just as the acetates is all acid-base chemistry, so all the reactions are reversible. So in this particular case, if you just treat again with acid, base of acid or some water, you can hydrolyze it back to the starting material. Right, acid-base reaction. Again, mechanism, if you can put this on, it's going to be the exact same with reverse mechanism. Now, what about if you want to, and this is a very common reaction in some biochemical acids where you can take advantage, if the DNA or in a protein, you have an aldehyde, you treat it with an amine, right? That you can put on an enzyme or whatever you want to do, whatever chemistry, and then you do a covalently because this is reversible. You can make this irreversible. Reversible. The acid here in this case. So how do you make it irreversible? Sodium cyanoborohydride. It's a common reagent. Right, so at this point, this is not reversible anymore. Right? Now that you break your imine, goes to the amine, it stays there. Right? So that's the idea. Again, I'm not going over any of these mechanisms, but you should certainly look into it. This is still part of the review. This is going to end soon, hopefully, so that we can start doing all the so any hexyl groups. So what's the outcome here? You get a what? Enamine. So enamine formations in this particular case. And as you've seen in Grobb's catalyst, every time you see a CY, it means a cyclohexyl group. So enamine formation. Enamine formation, this can be used to do oftentimes very mild chemistry at the alpha carbon. So now you have a double bond here, which can be nucleophilic. There are some alternatives or some advantages in which, for which you sometimes would want to use or form the formation of an enamine. Okay. So this will be useful. then probably should choose more complex molecules. Okay, so what type of chemistry is this? You guys remember? Very important, very commonly used, the chemistry.
Creation of conversion of the
Carbonyl going to a carbon-carbon. In this particular case, you're transforming that. That's it. Alright. So what types, what's the mechanism, how do you generate the Lilith reaction? Because oftentimes it's pretty simple, this is guaranteed your product might be find it commercially, but oftentimes you have to make your own. So how do you make you obviously know how to make carbonyls from alcohols, right? The oxidation reactions typically, or other types of reactions. But in this case, how do you generate your Lilith reagent?
Is it like ELID formation or something?
Is that you go to the ELID formation, okay, well, this is the ELID already.
It's already okay.
Because in essence, sometimes you'll see it like this, and then you just, so, typically you start with your alkyl halide, here with PPH3. Right, so if you start with PPH3, what's the mechanism? Basically an SN2 type reaction. Then you get the salt. Right? Remember, this is not an ELID, this is a salt because it's only an ELID if you have the charges of the same molecule. In this case, you get your salt, and then what happens next? What do you use? What do you need to do? The protonate this position with a strong base. So in this case, can be lithium, other bases that work fine. And it's going to vary on the groups that you have here. If this becomes more acidic because you have a carbonyl or other types of functional groups, you can certainly use milder bases. So oftentimes what you see sodium hydride, potassium hydride, any of the organic lithium, certainly they're very, very strong. So lithium is a common one, but if you want to decrease the reactivity, secondary lithium, tertiary lithium, another reactivity, the volcanics. So the volcanics, one of those. So sodium hydride, potassium hydride, in some instances, even things like potassium hydroxide, sodium hydroxide work. But for the most part, typically you do want to use a stronger base. So in this case, in lithium, now remember lithium is essentially 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you get your EV. Right, so then what happens next, if you guys remember, attacks, and this doesn't go through it's not a conservative mechanism. So in this case, go from the beta-in, that's what you end up with. Right? It's not conservative. Decyclizes. Alright, so that's the idea. And then, so basically this is chemistry that very reminiscent or very similar to, or at least the mechanism to the ring closing metathesis. So in this particular case, Then you break this. Right, so one of the driving forces, you generate terpene phosphine oxide, very as a leading group. So it becomes a very good leading group. So just as in rein-closing metathesis, I went to on this mechanism to make sure, or like to remind you guys to make sure to draw the arrows in the right direction. So always you have to make sure and check what you're breaking, what you're forming. Because if you draw the arrows in a different direction, you just go back to the starting material. Right? So just remember that in this case you're breaking the carbon phosphorus bond to make your carbon-carbon bond, which is the product, and you're breaking the carbon-oxygen bond to get the PO double bond on the terpene phosphine oxide. Any questions as far as big reactions? Again, you're going to see these type of reactions probably quite a bit because it's a very powerful methodology. Use carbonyls and then attach, of course, add complexity. Again, keep in mind different bases. Depending on the different groups, you might see different bases being used. And so just keep that in mind. One thing I should mention is that oftentimes what you're going to see is from here, from this species. I'm going to redraw it here. The plus and the minus. So of course this is exactly the same as so that you will see this. Sometimes some articles, some papers you will see just manipulated. Just remember this is already activated, right? So this is ready to go into the cycle. Alright, any questions with this?
On the mechanism, when you have the minus attacking the carbonyl carbon, are the electrons then in that double bond moving up to the oxygen? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so Vedic chemistry. Okay, so what's the outcome here? What's the product? What's that?
So that or just turn the carboxylic acid just so
It's meta.
So first you form your acid chloride. And then right, so the main thing I want to start reminding you about with carboxylic acid chemistry or carbonyl chemistry, how you can get to the acid chlorides. And then from the acid chlorides, start functionalizing the disposition. Right, and you can also do esterifications. So if you do something like an acid, you can also do an esterification. This will have to be in excess. Right, so starting using from carboxylic acids, functionalizing the corresponding carboxylic acids.
So you want to be in a nucleophile in that case, and your CO is your leading group off of the acyl chloride?
Right, so this is going to be the nucleophile, but not the lithium. butyl anion. So in this case, and remember that you have to go through a tetrahedral intermediate. So you have to go through your tetrahedral intermediate. Don't skip this when you're doing your mechanisms. I make sure, because I'll definitely be taking points off. Sometimes what you'll see in some books or in some resources, what I've seen, I used to do it at some point like this, or from here, from your chloride, you have this nucleophile attacks, this goes here, and this leaves. So in one step. Right, so don't do that. That would be definitely another point. It's no guaranteed we go through a tetrahedral intermediate because it's been proven, right? And you can track these types of intermediates. So you do not go, it's not a concert. And also, anytime that you start doing more than 3 arrows, when it sees a sigmatropic shift or a Diels-Alder reaction, you're moving 6 electrons. Okay. In these particular cases, you go through here, and then you keep your group up. Right? So again, always do examples. Whether you're doing a proton transfer, draw every step. If you're doing an acyl chloride or an acylation reaction to form a ketone, then do your tetrahedral intermediate. Right? Any questions with this? Yes.
Does that increase the carbon chain?
Of course it does. No. Thank you. It's only 2 and us 3. I don't know why. 3, 1, 3. Alright, so this stuff. What it means to noble reaction. This is pretty useful because it's used in, again, the Misnomer reaction what I'm going to cover right now, it's the general is basically what Misnomer came with, right? For now you can use it for change the nucleophile, you change different things. And in this case, the idea is use triphenylphosphine. Then there is silver carboxylate, and in this case I chose to use this. I'm not sure if this would work. Or we're going to put it here. As in this particular case, what ends up happening is the TVDMS. What's the TVDMS? Is this group. You see it as terbutyl dimethylsilane. So that's TVDMS. Oftentimes in literature, in a lot of papers, you'll see it just as TDS. Terbutylsilane. Or it should be really TVDMS. Because there are a lot of other protective groups with this. But oftentimes on papers, on good papers, you'll see just TDS. So TDS, TVDMS, those are interchangeable. So they mean the same. So there's a silane protective, terbutyl dimethylsilane. Okay, so now what's the idea here? So it's a pretty nice, again, very mild conditions. And what you're doing is you're exchanging, of course, in this case, it's an OH, this could be a nucleophile. I'm going to do the mechanism, just so it means a nucleophile. But if it's a nucleophile, then basically you can put a nucleophile with inversion of configuration of the polyprotein. So very, pretty nice. And in one step, so you don't have to make this a two-leading group, right? And then do chemistry. So that's the idea. So
So CDS
So this is dead. This is carbonate. So that's the carboxylic acid. The carboxylate, sorry, this is your the reagent with your diazo compound in this particular case. And so if you treat with PPH3, first step reacts like this. It's going to this in like this means it's an ester. That's your ester. PPH3 plus with a negative. Typically, the nucleophiles that are used, they have a proton. In this case, again, this is your nucleophile here. With the H. PDMS goes here, goes there. Okay, so then what happens next is then your original alcohol comes in here. So that's the idea here. Then this can take another proton from here or from another molecule. PDMS. Now just a lot like in the Lydic reaction. And again, like if you can just Google or look at the name reactions, Google Mitsunobu, you're going to see this mechanism. So the main thing I wanted to point out here is that in this case now this goes to the SN2. Lost triphenylphosphine oxide. So again, your triphenylphosphine oxide is acting just as in the Vedic reaction. This is your heavy group. So under very mild conditions, right? You didn't need a very strong base or a strong base at all, right? And you just have to add your reagents there, triphenylphosphine, and then your nucleophile. Oftentimes, this is not necessarily an OH, it can be other types of nucleophiles. Just keep that in mind. And so then, with the version of configuration, you have your OTVDMS, which is your nucleophile. Now the silane is a protecting group. So the silane is a silyl compounds are very common protecting groups. So do you guys know how to take them off? You'll see them very constantly. So you should know, you need to know how do you take off a silyl group? With fluoride. So basically, you can use TIVA, tributyl ammonium fluoride. That's TIVA. Tributyl ammonium fluoride. Basically, what happens is the F minus is going to binary F minus. F minus selectively goes for the side lane exclusively. And so that's why, right? So we talked about the acetals, how you put them on, how you take them off, how you put a side lane, and how you take it off. If they are very commonly used, very often used, because in the presence of a lot of functionality, you just use fluoride. The fluoride selectively goes exclusively for the side lane. So in this particular case, your fluoride, in case of TBAF, you get your free alcohol. So there are other types of fluoride reagents. TBAF is one of the common ones that you will see. Another one is that's very common. This is the dihydrofluoride, triethylamine. Again, this is a complex with triethylamine. Triethylamine stabilizes the HF, and so then you can basically it's a liquid. You can handle it as a liquid. So this has three equivalents of HF, so you just do your use I, right? Reactions that are gonna be done depending on solubility, right? In this case, EHF or whatever might be the case.
So then you have to be in the antimatter starting to, or no?
You have to what?
So then are you allowed to be in the antimatter starting material?
Right. Basically, in this particular case, it was nothing but inversion of configuration.
Yeah.
And so it's commonly used, very commonly used here, oftentimes just to do that, an inversion of configuration, or to add a different group. In this case, it was the OTBDMS, or now going to do another. Okay, so are there any questions on this? No? Alright, so TBAF, HF, triethylamine, the HF has to be always stabilized. Right? So HF is it's a very strong gas, a very corrosive, right? So obviously they don't sell it, they do sell it, but you don't want to use it. Right? HF. In fact, probably you can buy it. That thing can just start eating off metals, right? So when industrially if they're working with HF, that's a big deal. You have to do a lot of, and it's commonly used, HF. In industry one. It's very, very corrosive. So we just use those complexes to decrease the reactivity and so that it's safely handled.
And what is that called? That compound? The 3 agent?
Just like hydrofluoride triethylamine. Yeah, it doesn't have a particular name. Just like hydrofluoride triethylamine. Or again, it's just in the complex is to prepare as a complex and then you can use it. Okay, so another equation, in this case we use the OTBDMS group. For instance, what would happen if you have something like this? This is stereochemistry here. Let's put a method here. Says so. Comma. Alright, so what is the outcome? is a methyl group to begin with. This is a methyl group. I'm just going to say this. Use the stereochemistry here, otherwise it's really misleading.
So you have an inversion in alcohol.
Okay, with what? Well, there's nothing in it, right?
The BNOH.
Would it just reduce it?
You reduce something at some point, but what? What does it reduce? Because there's not too much to reduce right there.
Isn't the pH 3 still gonna react the same with dead, right?
Yeah, it's a Mitsunobu.
Do you reduce
It's a Mitsunobu reaction.
Yeah.
But,
Do you reduce
so what is the
methoxy?
action? What's that?
Do you reduce the methoxy group by chance? With the palladium?
No. So what happens with the first step?
Wait, what's BNOH?
Yeah,
Inverts.
that's the question.
Depends on ether.
Yeah, fancy detail. So again, oftentimes in literature, right, and this also, if you are not sure of what something stands for, right, make sure you know the molecular formula, then at that point, you already know the reagents, right? So you don't have to be need to know. Then just by knowing this, then you facilitate things significantly. Yeah, you just get your fancy detail, which can then
Wait, that's BNOH?
this is the fancy alcohol. That's a fancy group.
So
So
won't that replace the alcohol?
So it's an ether.
yeah, so at the end of the day, you get the alcohol. The first step, you end up with inversion, central benzene, and then for the benzene group. Benzene group is also protecting group. How do you knock off this protecting group? Let's show you. Basically, you do hydrogenolysis. Hydrogenolysis essentially toluene. Of course, toluene evaporated, but it's a derivative form. Again, this is a protecting group that can be knocked off in the presence of hydrogen and a catalyst.
It's only happened for benzene, right?
For benzyl. For benzyl groups, this is the benzyl, the OBN. Now this is called a what? Hydrogenolysis. What we've seen, or what you have seen more often, is hydrogenation. Right, so make sure you know the difference. You have something like this, with H2, common palladium carbon, or other palladium elements, some solvent, doesn't matter. So this is hydrogenation reaction. What's the difference? Hydrogenation and hydrogenolysis. So what's the difference? Hydrogenolysis, you're actually breaking a bond, right, a sigma bond, and each species takes a hydrogen. So this species takes the hydrogen here, and then this species, the benzyl group, which is now toluene, takes a hydrogen. So that's the difference when you talk about hydrogenolysis and hydrogenation. Hydrogenation, you didn't break the molecule, so the double bond is taken with hydrogen. So it's So you didn't break the molecule into fragments. That's the difference. So that's when you see hydrogenolysis versus hydrogenation. Just so you use the right example. Any questions with this? How we've been using protecting groups, different types of reactions. Make sense? Yes?
I guess I'm kind of confused on how you know when it will be a hydrogenolysis versus a hydrogenation. You just know because it's an ether instead of the alkene.
No, the main thing, it doesn't have to be an ether, it's just in general. Hydrogenolysis, you're breaking the bond. Basically, now you have two fragments. That immediately becomes a hydrogenolysis. So you're breaking this, one hydrogen comes in here, and the other hydrogen comes in here, so you're breaking that. And in this particular case, you didn't break the molecule, or you still have one fragment. All you did is a reduction of the double bond.
So I'm saying, like, if I didn't know the products, I wouldn't know that. How would I
You didn't
know?
know, oh, that's what you have to know the products.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to know what they do. And once you know what they do, so in this case, anytime that you have a benzene group, it's going to be hydrogenolysis because you're cleaning. There are other types of groups like naphthyl, derivatives, I probably won't talk about them, but other types of groups in which they're used as protecting groups to break that one is hydrogenolysis. Because you're breaking the molecule to fragments. Okay. So let's talk about inorganic chemistry and make sure we are all okay, LDA, propylbromine, how is this reaction to THF will work? So I have to do minus 78 degrees. Temperature, likely. Right, so what's the product?
To reduce the carbonyl and the arms.
No, no reduction. There is no reduction. What's LDA? You guys know, right? You guys know what it is. Okay, so what have you covered probably? You covered LDA. What happens is, if you have isopropylamine with lithium, you get LDA, lithium diisopropylamine. So that's LDA. Okay, so what does LDA do? In that particular case, so it's a base, it's a good base. So it's a very strong base, a pretty strong base. So what do you do? The proton, for you the proton. The alpha carbon, because the pKa is acidic, most acidic, pKa is, what is the pKa of this?
The highest.
We did cover some pKa, so this should be kind of close. What is the pKa?
I don't know, but it's low.
Okay. How we know? Yeah, it says 19, about 19. So if you just have acetone, it's 19. So what is peculiar about that alpha position? Remember we covered this, it was acetone, the pKa is around 19. What else is makes it acidic? Fact that is stabilized, and that position is the benzylic position. So this is a benzylic position. So it's benzylic, it's alpha to the carbonate, so it's probably even lower than that. So by far is this molecule certainly is the most specific. So LDA. Have your minus charge. Now remember that the minus charge, oftentimes I just basically, I typically just go to the inner. Right, as you innovate, and then what happens next?
Just come back.
Yeah, basically an alkylation reaction, you have an alkyl halide coordinating group. So, product is, comes back here, this attracts bromide. One, two, three. First is an alkylation reaction. So LDA. So what do you need? There are lots of different. This is basically you can buy LDA. It's better if you make it in situ. That way you know always what your concentration is, and you're making it fresh. So it's always recommended that you make your own LDA. You can buy it. But if you're going to do a large scale reaction, maybe that's okay. Besides LDA, there are other types of amide type bases. So you can imagine that LICA, this is like lithium isopropyl cyclohexylamine. You use lithium, so you would prepare it, then you get LICA. I think examples are called LICH or LICHA. What does know is lithium, isopropyl cyclohexylamine. In the same manner, you can prepare a lot of different, as long as you start with your secondary amine, you can prepare different types of bases. You can also have stereochemistry, so you can make it chiral, so you can make chiral bases, so can you presumably drive the stereochemistry of your product at the end. Right? So in this case, you end up with a racemic mixture. Right? There is no influence of chirality here, so it's impossible that you're going to favor one enantiomer over the other. So then, as a consequence, you have a racemic mixture. So if you make one of these groups chiral, then you have the advantage or the potential to make this an enantioselective reaction. More likely selective. Does that make sense? Are there any questions? Alright, so other reagents that are very similar that you will see. Lithium HMDS. So this is lithium hexamethyl disilazine. So lithium HMDS, LDA, they have virtually almost the same criteria. Lithium HMDS, so sometimes you'll see sodium HMDS, potassium HMDS. Whenever you see these types of reagents, you already know the criteria. You're just generating or using a base. Right? So now, why is it that you can't directly use lithium on this type of compound, for example. So reactive meaning look at the one. Besides, because you want it to be reactive, right? You want it to deprotonate here. And you can always control the reactivity if you go to minus 100 maybe. And you can, even if it's very reactive, you can still drive it towards this position. Well, deprotonating other things, even LDA is pretty strong. So if you just do LDA at room temperature, you will start knocking things off the benzene ring, of the methyl group. So that's what you want to cool it down. But now, why wouldn't that work with lithium? Because it's also nucleophilic. So erase this. You have the same one. You have envyl lithium. You can also attack that. In this case, you open the ring or it will stay as the alcohol. But this is why you can't use, or this is why LDA, lithium HLDS, these types of bases are very commonly used, because envyl lithium can be nucleophilic. Sulfur lithium can certainly be nucleophilic. Terbium lithium, not very nucleophilic because it's very bulky, right? But it's very reactive. Terbium lithium is very reactive, right? It's pyrophoric, catches on fire immediately. Right? So you guys, I don't know if you heard about the accident that happened a few years ago in UCLA, right? Where someone was using terbium lithium and then got it on hair and then burned, right? That very hard burns and then it eventually passed away. So terbium lithium is very, very reactive. So as long as you handle it carefully, you're okay. But I think she was doing like 100 milliliters, like pretty large.
She's wearing a sweater too, like really flammable.
And she was wearing something that was flammable, but yeah, well, that's not it. I think it was mostly not very safe condition. She was using like a plastic syringe for those big amounts. So if you want to do a reaction like that, you also probably want to make sure someone is close by. There was someone close by. Yeah, anyways, we won't get it here. So, very reactive, nucleophilic. That's why you want to use LDA. Lithium HLDS is a very nice base, because also recrystallizes, so you prepare the PHF and storage of it can be actually pretty nice. So your salt, your base, it's as a crystal, so it's not going to be reactive. Whereas LDA is very soluble. In any case, what else do I want to say here? Any questions?
Wait, so why isn't LDA nucleophilic?
LDA because it's bulkier. If you look at the LDA, LICA, or lithium HLDS, you have these bulky groups here. So that prevents the nucleophilicity. So it's just going to act as a base exclusive.
Let's say it again.
So it goes, so if you compare, for instance, envyl lithium, before, you can see it's a primary carbon ion. So it's very, presumably very small, so this can add immediately as a nucleophile because it's small. In fact, if you have methyl lithium, for instance, I mean, guaranteed this is just going to be nucleophilic. So you increase the bulkiness so that it doesn't do a nucleophilic attack and it only the protons. So it has to do with the bulkiness of the groups.
But LDA isn't as bulky as.
LDA is the same, yeah, it's pretty bulky. If you draw LDA, it looks basically like this. You have the two isopropyls that actually make it quite bulky. Because the two isopropyl groups here, they're going to hinder, you're going to see virtually no nucleophilicity. That's the idea. Yeah. All right. Any questions with this? No? Okay. So please next time We'll do micro additions and those type of chemistry next time. So for now, this is European Journal of Organic Chemistry. The volume of this. (4044) to 4053. Authors. Okay. So that's the references where I'm getting this from. And so then the idea here is what happens if we treat this with we have soluble hydrogen methanol, then aromethane. And potassium hydroxide. So, then they treat this with an Ullmann reaction. But I'm going to change it a little bit to the Suzuki actually.
What's the letter next to the D? What's the letter next to? And finally, let's do basically what's the product here, vector with pink chloride, HCl, or hydrogen palladium chloride to get to here, and then
take it with formaldehyde, sustainable hydrate, related to, so what are the products? And let me see, this one you can probably do.
Read the reactants at the bottom, right
You
hand
can do all of it. What's that?
Could you read the reagents at the bottom right?
This,
hand corner?
this palladium, pyridophosphine, potassium carbonate, oh no.
Most
here.
right.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
HCHO, sodium cyanoborhydrate. So HCHO is basically paraformaldehyde, or formaldehyde.
Thank you.
HCHO is basically the polymer. So you can just treat it as formaldehyde. Just work on this. Obviously, you have this. The mechanism is not there, but the answers you see. You should be able to get to all of these. Look at this paper. Certainly there will be a question along these lines on the quiz. For this is taken from Scheme 4. You will see a couple of variations. So this is Scheme 4 from this paper. So this, you can expect some question like this certainly on the quiz and on the exam. Then there is going to be most likely a mechanism question as well. So you have to push errors and so on. And then let me give you another reference maybe to look at and then see what you can do for what seems familiar. There's only one scheme really, so now I am pretty sure that you can do it all. Yes, you can. So, yes, well, so certainly look at Journal of Natural Products, James Prod. This is Popular. Natural products, what's the Scheme 1? Basically, look at all the papers, Scheme 1 and Scheme 2. You can certainly, this is all chemistry that we cover here in some way or another.
So both of those references are good materials for the quiz.
What's that?
Both of those references are good materials for the quiz. So let's get familiar with.
Right, it's things, I mean, it's things that we've done in the past few days. So on this one in particular, I think, yeah, if you look at all the schemes, I think you'll be able to do it, most of it, that we covered already. So check these two references out. This is going to be kind of a format, plus most likely a mechanism question for the quiz and Q&A. Are there any questions?
For this molecule you found, that's the product of that reaction?
Yeah, so in this particular case, whatever you get here, you treat it with hydrogen palladium carbon or thichloral HCl. This may give you a, they don't have thichloral HCl, but this, if you know what this is for, you'll be able to kind of sell it.
Is Chris going to do the whole class?
No. Quiz will take maybe, yeah, hopefully not, like 20 minutes. I'll see, when I'm finished with the quiz, I'll decide. So yeah, 15. All right, no questions? No?